We'll see if that all works. All right, so we're going to talk about what's all the buzz about. All right, so bees, bees are the perfect pollinators. And there's actually more types of bees than there are mammals. There's over 20,000 species of bees in the world. Again, more than all of those other animals. And there are about 4,000 species native to North America. And one of the most common species that we have here, and the one that everybody thinks about, is actually not native to North America. And it is the honeybee. You don't think about that, but we just ordered bees, and we have just started, my husband and I have just started beekeeping ourselves, and we have Italian bees. And and most of the beekeepers that you see and you talk to, they will have Italian bees. There's also Russian bees, and there's some others, but those are the ones. They were imported in the 1600s. Now, honeybees is the only species of bee that is kept in North America for honey. And there are people have been collecting honey for thousands of years. So, and they are the preferred pollinator for agriculture. A lot of the farms, if you have crops that are growing and stuff, the farmers will keep bees on their property. It's kind of interesting too, because there are companies that are they keep the bees, and they will actually haul their bees around for different farmers to help pollinate, like their orchards and things like that. Oh, wait a second. I skipped a page. Make sure I get everything in. Okay. All right. So with these preferred pollinators, all right, the things about bees is most bees are solitary, and they don't live in large colonies, but honeybees do. They're also cavity dwellers. I'm on a beekeepers group on Facebook, and one of the things that I hear, all the time on Facebook is somebody will post, "Hey, a friend of mine found bees in their attic," or "There's a swarm. Does anybody want it?" or anything like that. So they do live together, and they do find places, hollow trees or whatever, to dwell in. They're perennial. They don't die out each year. Most other insects like that, they die out, but honeybees don't. They're generalist feeders. In other words, they're not super picky about what they eat, and they are not a specialist when it comes to that.
Hi, Allison. This is Sheena. Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Do other bees actually not make honey? Is the honeybee the only one that makes honey?
There are a few bees that do, but very few. And again, they don't do it in the quantity that honeybees do. Honeybees are prolific when it comes to producing honey, where some of the other bees, they produce enough just like for their brood and themselves, but they would not produce enough to support a colony and then have excess like we are then able to enjoy.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, anytime. Which anybody, if you've got a question and stuff, feel free to either do it on the chat or break in on that. Okay. Honeybees recruit nest mates, and they can communicate. My husband and I are absolutely loving watching our honeybees do their dance and watching them as they come in, and they really do truly communicate, and they're very effective at their communication and then exploiting the resources in the area. It's been fun watching our bees get to know the area even. We've only had them for 2 weeks now, so it's been fun. And also bees hoard food. They're like ants and others. They hoard the food, they stock it up. So it produces, the honeybee is the one that produces the largest supply. Now, again, they are ideal for the large scale pollination, and everything about them makes them perfect for that. Now, let's look at preferred pollinators for a minute, because I know y'all are probably interested in some of the benefits then with the honeybees, and let's see why they are so ideal for this large scale pollination. Honeybees are perfectly adapted for pollination and or that pollen transport. You can see in these pictures how their bodies themselves are made, and how they get covered, and like right in here you can see how they've got the pollen stuck to them. It's really kind of fun to see them. Now, honeybees are not ideal though for all crops and situations. Native plants co-evolve with native bees. So, again, it's important to, allow, our wildflowers, things like that, because while some of our wildflowers, it doesn't matter, other wildflowers and native plants in our area will benefit more from the native bees and just, I guess you could say the wild bees. European honeybees, though, are a lot easier to cultivate than the native bees. But the native bees, again, they kind of co-evolved with the native plants. Now, New World crops include all of these listed here. And some of these plants, like tomatoes, they need a large bee, like a bumblebee, to shake loose the pollen. And also, honeybees do not thrive in greenhouses. I've seen some people ask about that. Well, I've got a greenhouse. Can I put a hive in it, and will they keep everything pollinated? Honeybees actually do not do well in that contained thing. Honeybees will travel quite a while. In fact, they'll travel up to a mile to get to the nectar and the pollen. So they like their freedom. Now, again, most bees don't make honey. Most are solitary, and they're also short-lived. They just live for that one season, and then it's up to their eggs and brood to go live on. But most bees, not all of them, but most of them are highly efficient pollinators. We've got a lot of wildflowers around our house. So we live out in the woods, surrounded by trees, and we have just a little open area and stuff. And I love seeing and just watching all of the bees just kind of doing their thing. Now, benefits of bees, there's quite a few. Crop pollination, again, is the bee's most vital service. Also, when you think about that, 1/3 of our human diet requires insect pollination. That's why there's such a big fuss and big talk going on about, you know, protecting the honeybees and you know, with the spraying and some of the things that they were doing with the plants and treating those. It's a big deal with that. Also, honeybees provide 80% of that insect pollination on 100 important crops that, you know, we need. You know, of course, honey was, you know, man was first interested in honey and in bees again because, you know, for food itself, and also the medicinal purposes for it. You know, the wax was made into candles. The propolis was used in furniture polish and even antibiotic properties. The royal jelly is used often in health foods, and it's very high in protein. Of course, the crop pollination is, you know, the biggest thing here. We're talking $15 billion a year in just the U.S., and then they increase the yield by 25 billion each year. All right, now I know y'all probably enjoy thinking about planting and stuff like that for the natural. So here's a little information for that. You can go to these websites here, and these are some of the brochures and handouts and things that they have with that of planting specifically for pollinators. Now, again, bees aren't the only pollinators, so this will have information on some of the others, and I could speak for a whole hour just talking on pollinators, but I want to be able to get to actual honey. All right, so planting for pollinators, there is an app that you can do, and you can customize your search using the soil type, whether you're sunny or shady, which our house has lots and lots of shade. The plant type that you're interested in, you know, what kind you would like to grow in your area, flowers, the shapes and colors, and by using that, if you look and see even with what you've got growing in your yard, you're going to see what is attracted to your yard, and then, you know, looking for the pollinator groups, and you can get those. Okay, so being friendly, you know, don't apply pesticides to plants in bloom because that's when the bees are going to be coming to them. Spray in the evening if you have to spray when few bees are out. You know, you can spray foliage, but not the actual flowers, you know. And then, you know, making sure that you are trying to use the least toxic, you know, even when we're trying to be natural and environmentally friendly and stuff like that, there is a time that, you know, you have to spray something here and there. I don't know about you, but I don't like ants in my house. And, well, I will use, you know, I have bay leaves in my cabinets and things like that. I still, you know, on occasion have to do that. So I'm trying to be really careful. One thing you do want to avoid, you know, if you do have to use something, is avoiding like the broad spectrum insecticides. Use something that works specifically for whatever your need is, rather than casting, you know, like Seven Dust covers. If you look at the list on Seven Dust, it's got, you know, 20 something different insects, I think, listed. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but that's a lot of different insects that it covers and affects. And so, you know, some of those might not be an issue for you, or again, you may just need to, um, cover for one thing. And so you try to get specific with that. All right, so let's talk honey. Everybody ready for honey? All right, honey is pure and natural. It's delicious. The bees collect the nectar of the flowers, and then they store it in the hives, and they consume that during the winter months and periods of drought. Right now, because we have just established our hive, we're actually feeding them a honey, not honey itself, but a sugar syrup, and it's like major sugary. It's 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. So you can imagine how thick and ooey gooey it is. But that is, by feeding them that now, I've got bags of sugar that I've been buying and stuff. Feeding them that, actually kickstarts their production of honey. And the first time we opened up the hive to check to make sure that the queen had escaped out of her box and her cage and stuff, it was really cool to see what they've already done in the hive. They did not waste any time. Honey has a high sugar content. It's got a mild acidity, and then that low moisture level. So microorganisms can't grow in honey, which means it never needs pasteurization. It never ruins. Some commercial processors will heat honey because it'll thin it, and you can filter out the pollen if you want with that. Now, honey's color and flavor is affected by what type of flowers and what is blossoming when the bees visit. All right. Now the color can range from almost that clear then to the dark amber, and you can see that. And as a rule, the light colored honey is milder and the dark colored honey is a stronger flavor. I have some right here that is, it's kind of a mix. It really truly is a mix. The original honey in it was this gorgeous amber color, but I used most of that. And then I had some honey that crystallized, and so I put all of it and mixed it up together. Now, the forms of honey that you can get honey in, of course, the liquid, and that's, extracted from the comb in the hive. Of course, we won't be using our bee honey for quite a while. We've got to get them well established first. You can also whip the honey, and it makes it creamy and spreadable. It gives it a little thickness. And then the honeycomb, where you do not separate the honey from the comb, so you can comb honey, and you can buy that too. As a kid, my Uncle Chester raised bees. He did that, and that was one of the biggest treats for us. When he would go and he would bring in the honey, and when they were in the process of processing it and everything, he always let us kids have honeycomb. And so we would chew it, and we would chew it like gum for as long as there was any teeny tiny bit of flavor to it. So I've got lots of good memories. That's one of the reasons we wanted to start keeping bees ourselves. Now, crystallized honey. I mentioned that I had some honey that crystallized. My timer is going off. So let me check this real quick and we'll see what it's doing. For those that came in a little bit late, I don't know if you know, but I have a honey granola bar in the oven. Let me check this. No, I think it's going to need just a little bit longer. Okay. All right, so we'll give it just a bit more time. And all right, so all natural honey is going to eventually crystallize. The cooler the area is, the faster it'll crystallize too. And honey with higher glucose content tends to crystallize more rapidly. Also the raw honey, which is the kind I prefer, and it will crystallize more readily too. The thing is crystallized honey is not spoiled. All you need to do is place your honey, in the container, into a pan of warm water to liquefy again. But we never microwave it. My husband was the other day, oh, I can stick it in the microwave. And I was like, oh, no, don't do that. Microwaving, the processes with that are not good for honey. Now, some of you may have been trying like local honey for allergies. And that's a common question. And it doesn't really have a for sure answer. Honey does contain traces of pollen, and so sometimes though it's not going to be enough in your honey, especially if it's been a processed, to have the actual properties that you would need to help your immune system. Also, it depends on when your bees collected, or the bees that, whoever raises them has it. For instance, like our bees right now, yes, they are producing honey, and they are, the privet, the hedgerow bushes are blooming right now. Well, I am highly allergic to that. But unfortunately, yes, my bees are busy and they are producing, but that's going to be for their brood. So I'm not going to benefit from the pollen that they're collecting right now. Now, if they continue and they make enough, and we do get to collect any this fall, it could be that they make some of their honey using like ragweed or some of the other fall flowers that can cause so many allergies. So that might be a benefit. Also, for some people that are hypersensitive to allergens, consuming the raw honey could potentially create a severe allergic reaction. So, again, you want to be careful with that. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Why honey should not be fed to infants? You probably heard that. Honey, any kind of commercial honey that you buy in any store, they're going to have that on the label. Of course, this one is straight from a home honey producer here, so it didn't have that. But I do have one that I bought like from Kroger, and all of that will say that children under 12 months should not be fed honey. Let's see, my timer's going again, so we're going to go ahead and get that out. It smells good. I wish you could smell it. Oh, yeah. See, that looks nice. All right, so I'm going to set this aside right now and let it cool. Okay, all right. Infant botulism is a form of food poisoning. Honey is connected with that. And with infants, their stomachs and their immune systems, like their stomach acids are not strong enough. That's, like why they only, digest milk and things as a little one. And you have to increase gradually as they grow and they strengthen. Also, their immune systems are not necessarily strong enough to fend off any kind of bacterial spores. And now honey itself, we mentioned before that honey itself doesn't spoil. So it prevents bacteria growth, but it can contain the spores of Clostridium botulinum. And it's the spores that are the issue. In adults or older children, our stomach acid is strong enough to typically be able to destroy the spores. But again, with a baby or even some young children, their stomach acid doesn't destroy it. And so it can then activate that and they can have the botulism, food poisoning. All right. Now, our website is uaex.edu. And again, I'm with the Cooperative Extension Service. We are part of the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture, and we have campus, all the, the U of A campuses, all of those, we're all associated together. We are part of that system. And so one of the things with our programming is, again, everything we present, we try to have it all research-based and very carefully tested with the information. Does anybody have any questions or anything or comments?